see all these.
Yeah, that's it's
Oh,
telling me
okay.
that you should go live.
Okay.
That's
So
what
I'm live
happened.
now. So let me do this. Okay. You know what, Paul? And so I really started.
Yes.
I want that
Let me
promo.
make
I
sure.
want that promo removed. I don't want that.
The one
Take
playing
that.
right now?
Take it out. Take it
Okay.
out. I don't want that. It does not represent the show at all. Take it out. Decide to be overcomers.
The Santita
Take that
Jackson
out.
Show, weekday mornings at 6 on
This is not the
WCPT
Oprah Winfrey
820.
show.
Hi, I'm
And I
Danica
gave you the
Patrick.
date,
Watching
and I
my
will call
nieces
Matt
grow,
myself. I
play,
gave
and
you the
learn
date
is
when
amazing,
Bernie
but not
Sanders
every
was
child
on.
gets to be carefree. One in
That I
six
love
kids
Oprah
in the
Winfrey, but
U.S.
this is
are
not the kind of show that
homeless.
I'm
This
doing.
breaks my heart, and
We don't
it's
sit
something
around and
that
talk
Feeding
about weight
America
issues
is
and things
working to
like that.
change. Each
And I'm
year, the
straight.
Feeding
I've been
America
straight up
network of
about
food
whatever
banks
issues I've
rescues
had.
billions of pounds
But
of good food that would have
we have
gone
some of
to
the top
waste and
political
gives it to
minds and
families in
thinkers
need.
on this
To
show
help,
every
visit
week. And for me to be
feedingamerica.org.
talking like that,
Brought
like
to
I'm
you
giving
by
an
Feeding
inspirational
America
speech,
and the Ad Council.
no, take that. Do not play
The
that
history
anymore,
of Air
please.
America lives
Get that
here.
out.
This is WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts
Okay, now why do I
matter.
have this on the screen, Marnie?
News. I'm
Okay.
You have on the screen.
Okay, it's hump day. That's right. Hey, hey, Samantha. Hey, Barbara. You know, I need the Paul. Are you there?
Yes.
I need the promo should reflect the show. Everybody should. You now have the people who are speaking on who are speaking to what happened January 6th. I had Ray McGovern, who's been one of the biggest people in the CIA analyst who briefed presidents for 27 years. He came on to talk about that.
The goal is to get them at least one dose by month's end.
You know, I mean, I don't know what else to do. And these are the biggest national voices in the space.
Biden's picked to head the Office of
Do
Management
not play that.
Investigator
Pull that
candidate
out.
has
Pull
withdrawn
that
her
out. I do
nomination
not
amid
want that.
opposition from key Democratic and
Please.
Republican senators for her controversial tweets. Her withdrawal marks the first high-profile defeat of one of Biden's nominees. The
I don't want to
president
hear
is
that
urging
ever
Senate
again.
Democrats to
Ever.
rally behind a $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill while standing by his
And
proposed
pardon me, but you know that
$1,400
I think,
payments to
Marnie, the show
individuals.
needs to
The Senate
reflect.
opens debate on the bill tomorrow.
You
Yes,
know,
I hear you.
what we're talking about
Yes,
every day. That's not what we don't talk about. Oh, the
yeah,
foods, my friend. I'm like, what? What?
Cutting through California
No.
farmland near the
yeah.
U.S.-Mexico border.
I
I
understand.
got all the stuff we talked about. That's what was found. Oh no. So anyway, can you get up Dr. Reverend Wilson, please?
Yeah, I'm calling her right now.
Thanks so much.
Me to speculate on what happened
No
in this
problem.
collision.
Okay, so I'm going to let you go
I'm
because
actually doing her banner.
Okay, thank you so
Have a
much.
good
Thank you, hon.
have a good show.
Can everybody
Have a
hear
good
me?
show.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I
Yeah.
don't know who else was there, but Maria and Chapearl.
That's your pearl.
Hey, hi, Chapearl.
Yeah, Maria. Maria.
Hey, Maria. Okay, I'm letting you all go because we
Oh,
got.
hey, Maria.
All right, you guys. You all call in today if you can. Okay, so everybody, hey, how you doing? Carol out there on the left coast.
Hey,
Barbara
Sandy.
Jean. Hey, hey, how you doing? I'm saying hello to everybody on Facebook and on YouTube now. Reverend, and we've got Carolyn, Queen Carolyn, Paula, morning, my people, Daryl, praise the Lord.
Good morning, morning.
Joyce, good morning. And you can say hello to everyone. Raphael, how you doing, sweetie? Chantilly, Barbara Bacon, Rashidi, how are you? From Linwood. Vicky, hey everybody. We are going to be talking with Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis at the bottom of the hour about what's happening in Texas. You see, Texas and Mississippi are about to open up completely. No masks, no limits on occupancy in public places and spaces. And some people are very alarmed by that. Some people are saying this is being pushed by the business community. Some people are saying that it's because we're vaccinated. But it has you, Reverend Wilson, it has you ask questions about a vaccine. Because vaccines provide immunity. And that's not what this shot does, right?
Right.
It's
not. That's not what it's supposed to do. And then you can't guarantee that everyone in these open areas has taken the shot. So
but it's not
and
a
it says
vaccine.
even if you get the
I've got to ask Dr. Deborah Holden about it because a vaccine gives you immunity. That's not what this does.
Yeah, it's not giving you immunity. It just reduces the risk of what happens if you get COVID. It mitigates the risk of a horrible impact of of the COVID if you get it.
Of the disease. So
Of the disease, yeah, if you get it.
that's something else that we have to. I'm going to clear that up with her, because you still, if you get this shot, you still have to wear your mask. You still can catch coronavirus, which will develop into the disease called COVID-19. I mean, so when they talk about, the rates of COVID-19 going down, even there are a lot of doctors who say, well, it's too soon to say that it's because of these shots. So we're going to be talking about that. But we're really going to be talking about what it's going to mean to have two big states, one of the largest states in the union, open up completely. A lot of people go through Houston. That's the fourth largest city in the country. And he oversees that as its commissioner. So we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to have Ro Khanna on. That's right, Congressman Ro Khanna from California. He is part of a cadre of people who are pushing President Biden to the left. And they are pushing on this $15 an hour minimum wage. They're saying, wait. We didn't sign up for this. So, we need to, you need to forget the parliamentarian who is an unelected official and push for it. Have an up or down vote. So, I'm going to talk with him about that, and then we're going to be joined by Dwight McKee and Jonathan Jackson at the bottom of the hour to continue to further that discussion. Hey, David Gross, how you doing? Linda and Jeremy, how you doing from Atlanta? How you doing? The ATL. Vicky, hey, Miss Vicky. And Medi, how you doing?
15 seconds.
In the house. Nicole, and we're going to come right to it. Okay, you can bring that down just a bit. All right.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's Hump Day. That's right. Wednesday, March 3rd, 2021. I'm Santita Jackson. This is the Santita Jackson Show, coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station and the voice of progressive Minnesota in Minneapolis, St. Paul, AM 950 radio. It's a pleasure to be with you today. Call me, text me at 773-763 WCPT 773-763-9278. I want you to meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson and Friends page, the Santita Jackson and Friends page, and please like and subscribe my new YouTube channel, the Santita Jackson Show. Please like and subscribe, everybody. Like and subscribe. So all my morning stars, Joyce and Will and Louise and David and Nicole and Paula and everybody, Daryl, please hop over there, like and subscribe. Some people say they like the picture better over there too. So I want to know what's on your mind. I hope that you had a wonderful, restful evening. I hope you're ready to get some good news. We're going to hear from Reverend Dr. Not Reverend Doctor, but Reverend Jeanette Wilson, who is Jeanette Wilson Esquire. She's a lawyer and a preacher. And she's brilliant. And we're going to have, of course, Texas Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis to tell us about the impact of opening up Texas. Wow, what is that going to mean? This is like, he oversees Houston. Houston is the fourth largest city in the country, and it's about to overtake Chicago in terms of population. So what is that? What is that going to look like? Are they ready? Are they ready to reopen? So everybody, please like and share, and please let's get this going. And then we're going to have Ro Khanna. That's right, the congressman out of California, who is really, they're saying that he's building his brand, and it's really his principles on, he's a real progressive, and he's been very, very forward about pushing the Biden-Harris administration to the left. And he stepped forward and said, look, we cannot pin our hopes or pin our legislation on an unelected official, an unelected staffer, a parliamentarian. Are you kidding me? So we're going to talk to him about the fight for 15 and what they're doing and what we need to do. And then, of course, we will have Dwight McKee and Jonathan Jackson, national spokesman for Rainbow Push, to talk about what we need to do right now and what $15 an hour could look like for people, if not more. And so today, as we open the show, Chicago is going to be positively spring-like, 49 degrees and sunny. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 44 degrees. I mean, above zero, everybody. Partly cloudy. The Dow closed down 143 points yesterday. The NASDAQ closed down 230 points, and the S&P 500 closed down 31 points. Dedicating the show to Vernon Jordan, iconic civil rights leader, iconic power broker. Wow, no one did it better. And indeed, he was head of the Urban League for many years, and he was nearly assassinated in 1980. Was in the hospital for 3 months, having just given a speech down in Indianapolis, Indiana. A true fighter for African Americans. And then after that, about a year later, he moved over into the corporate world, full tilt. And any African American and women who came through the corporate world over the past 40 years. You went by him, and he was a wise sage and counsel. And we miss him already. We miss him already. He was known really as the first friend to Bill Clinton, but he was so much more. Everyone who knew Vernon Jordan, he was their first friend. And of course, what can I say? He was a Howardite. Come on, Howard keeps it moving. HBCUs are in the house. Sending my love to his wife and to his daughter Vicky, and to everyone in that family. Boy, what a loss, but what a life! What a life, everybody. Let's get to some of these headlines, Paul. President Biden says the U.S. will have enough vaccines. 300 million adults could receive this vaccine by the end of May. This is an accelerated timeline. Indeed, we saw something historic. Merck, which pulled out of the vaccine race, they're teaming up with Johnson & Johnson to produce the COVID-19 vaccines. Be very, very interesting to see, because we're going to see if we're going to have wider distribution of this shot. Well, Texas Governor Greg Abbott is lifting the mask mandate in his state, and that will allow businesses to open at 100% capacity, despite the fact that health officials are saying, please don't do this. At the same time that he announced that, health officials, CDC, everybody said this is not the thing to do. We're going to be talking with Texas Harris County Commissioner about this. What do you think about that? Call me or text me at 773-763-9278. Are we ready? Are we ready to reopen? Some quick headlines, everybody. The nomination of Neera Tanden was withdrawn yesterday, as many people thought that it would. She just did not have the votes. Some people said it was because of her mean tweets, but she's a lot of women and people of color and women of color have gotten a lot of pushback in this confirmation process. But we understand that the Biden administration is looking for a substantive role for her, because she is someone who's very popular in Democratic circles. RBG, that's right, the notorious Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg could become a permanent fixture on the Capitol. She could be honored with a monument, everybody. And so good for her. And now President Biden has prioritized vaccines for teachers, child care workers, with a goal of one dose for all by the end of March. Rhode Island Governor Gina Raimondo was confirmed as a Commerce Secretary yesterday. And so good for her. And so Chuck Schumer says that he's confident that the Democrats have the votes that we need, as he put it, to pass Biden's coronavirus relief package, but it will be without that $15 an hour wage lift. What do you think about that? What do you think about that? So let's get right to it. Let's get to some good news from Reverend Jeanette Wilson, Esquire. That's right. I have to give you everything, because you have worked so hard to do so many things. The pastor of the Maple Park United Methodist Church. Give me some good news today. We certainly do need it.
Well, I think that this pandemic has caused people to be like David, the psalmist was when he wrote Psalm 63. He was in a physical wilderness, but he was in a spiritual wilderness where you're depressed, you're despondent, you don't see hope, you don't know if you can't go out, you can't stay in, and no matter what you do, you feel alone, you feel isolated, you feel kind of barren, just you're not able to feel fruitful anymore because of the situation. And so the question is, what do I do? I'm at home. I'm by myself. I barely go to the grocery store. I'm stuck. Or even if I go out, I'm fearful. And I don't feel connected to people anymore. I can't hug. I can't touch. So what David decided to do was cry out to God. First of all, you got to recognize there is a power greater outside than a greater power that is within you. Reverend Evans used to say, greater is he that is within you than he that is in the world. And so you got to reach down into your soul, the resources of your soul, and search for God. And so David decided to cry out to God and said, look, I'm in a bad space, but I remember what you've done for me. So you have to spend some quiet time thinking back over your life. You know how they sing that song, when I look back over my life and I think things over, then you remember what God has brought you through. You got to do that sometimes to kind of bring yourself back out of the dumps. Some people are sick, critically ill. Their whole physical life has changed as a result of the illness. That's a major adjustment. You got to talk yourself back into reality again. You got to push yourself forward. And that's a spiritual push. And so the way to do that is to remember what God has brought you through before. You do still have God right now. And then finally, he said, at the end of it, this is not a long psalm, I'm going to pursue God. I'm going to seek the word. I'm going to spend more time. I got all this time anyway. Let me spend more time trying to understand and feel the presence of God. Remind myself of God's power in nature. Walk out, look out the doggone window. Walk out your front door with your mask on and see the handiwork of God. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, just think about it. We had all this snow. Now the snow is easily moving away because God sends this warm temperature to melt the snow. How he does this stuff, how God just moves in our lives. So you have to pursue God in the midst of your wilderness. It's dry. It seems like nothing can grow there, and yet you see a cactus. It seems like there's nothing good in this space that you're in now. But just recall and bring back to mind and know that you have a relationship with a God that can do anything and has done everything for you. Woke you up, you can move around, not like you used to move, not the way you want to move, but you're still there. You're breathing, you're moving, you're handling some situations that you didn't think you could make it. You made it. You don't have as much as you need, but you got more than you ever had. So I think Psalm 63 is a great psalm. Read it today. Pray about it and celebrate God.
Amen to that. I thank you for that, because I need that word today, because we are really finding ourselves in the midst. It's just very quickly before you
It's
go.
crazy.
Well, just very quickly before you go, what do you think about reopening? Reopening. Hey, Shirley from Philadelphia.
I think that's a drastic mistake. We should not reopen at this moment. We should be very gradual and practical about this. I know people want to go back, but you don't want to have to shut completely down again. Remember, Fauci told us 1 year ago, almost yesterday, in order to combat this disease, we had to shut down, shelter in place, wear the mask, social distance. That hasn't changed. You don't have to. You can do some gradual things, but what Texas is doing is just putting people at risk of dying. It's not even getting sick; it's dying. And Mississippi, and both of them have water issues. They have other health concerns. So now you're just exacerbating a bad situation. They don't have clean water. They can't. They don't. Everybody's not vaccinated. It's too much. It's crazy. It's irrational. And you cannot let crazy people send you to an early grave.
Well, is it crazy or is it business? Everybody, I want to hear from you.
Well, it is business.
I want everyone to call in, because business has
Ask
been
Jonathan that question when he comes on. That's my business expert.
Well, absolutely. But this is what we want to know, because it's the record is very clear.
Yeah.
That is what is happening. And we need to find out I think that now we've got a lot of questions that we need to be asking and that we need to demand some answers to. We're going to have Rokana on at the top of the next hour talking to us about this $1.9 trillion relief package that is going to go into the Senate for a vote, but it's going to go without the $15 an hour wage hike. Now the federal minimum wage is $7.25. 5 years to move it
You
to
can't
15.
live. And I think, Santita, it's now time for people to call their state and federal elected officials. This is a time where you tweet and text them because you're being harmed by these statements. The governor will probably be running for re-election in 2022. Several of those state senators and state representatives and U.S. congressmen will be running next year. They have to feel the pressure of the people that they're sent to represent.
And because really, your voting was the end of the beginning, not the beginning of the end. Now you must call them. You
That's
must
right.
press them. And I think that as Americans, we have to continue to call them. We have to continue to press them. So I want you to call
Absolutely.
me right now. Call me. Let me know what you think about America reopening. Because you have more and more Republican governors who are going to reopen, but some Democratic governors are going to feel the heat too, because it's business, everybody. This is transpartisan.
Mm-hmm.
This has less to do with Democrats and Republicans and more to do with big business. All these big businesses, Reverend, they contribute to both parties. They are never out of
Well,
fashion.
and they're not making $7 an hour. I promise you, they get bonuses. They're making millions of dollars at the top 1% of all these companies, and the people on the bottom are barely making a living, don't have benefits. Ask the people that head all of these big box stores, the CEOs. Look at how much they make and how little you get, and how much harder you have to work to get the little you have, and it's not enough to make ends meet. You then should be calling these people to whose salaries you pay with buying their products or electing them to office. We have to take charge. That's why Reverend Jackson always had a consumer army and a political group of people that were educated to fight back. We don't have to take this.
Well, I want to know what people are thinking because we don't have to take it, but you need to let me know what you think about this. Are you prepared to go into a theater filled with people? Are you prepared to go into an arena filled with thousands of people? Should we be? Um, have you gotten this vaccine? Uh, and if you do get it, do you still feel secure enough to go into public spaces? They're telling us that even when you receive this shot, you still need to wear the mask. You still need to be physically distant from people because you can still contract the virus. You can still develop COVID-19. It just won't be as bad. It won't be as deadly. It won't be as lethal. So it's not like vaccines as we know it.
Not a cure.
Well, vaccines as we know it, when you got the polio vaccine, you didn't get polio. When you got measles, rubella,
Right.
all those things,
Measles
you didn't
vaccine,
get.
you didn't get measles.
Yeah, so that's why I'm trying to, waiting for Dr. Deborah for holding, because I want to know exactly what this is, because I'm like, wait a minute, vaccines give you immunity. But let me go to Brian from Naperville. Brian, what's on your mind today?
Good morning, Santita. It's a pleasure to speak with you. Always love listening to your show.
Oh, thank you, Brian.
Yeah, I'm a little bummed I'm not going to be able to catch Rokana, but that's okay.
But you know what?
So
You know when you can catch him?
I personally,
You can catch him on the go to the podcast of the show. Go to WCPT820.com/Santita, and you can hear him today. Okay.
Perfect. I'll have to check that out. Anywho, so as far as whether or not it's too early to reopen, I think it is. I think a lot of people are really sick of the cold weather and, being cooped up for about a year now. And, so people are getting antsy to come out. And honestly, also, I think there's a failure on the government's end to take care of these businesses that rely on people coming in. You asked if it's crazy or just business. I think it's both, honestly. I mean, it's business in the sense that, they don't really have any other options because the government didn't give them that option. But it's also crazy in the sense that, I mean, until it starts getting warm, I'm not going anywhere. I mean, maybe I'll get some takeout, but I'm not going to any bars or anything until I can do stuff outside. I don't even go to family places until it's going to be outside. I'm going to be double masked. I'll be wearing my mask for a long time after this.
Well, you know, it's very interesting.
But you know what?
Oh, yes, Brian.
Oh, well, I was going to say, honestly, as far as the mask thing goes, I know a lot of people are anxious to take them off.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, since I've been wearing it and doing the protocols, I haven't gotten sick at all since this whole thing started.
I was
now
about
with a
to bring
cold
that
or
up,
anything,
Brian.
I used to get I used to get sinus infections. I haven't gotten anything. I'm like, hey, this is a good deal for me. So, but I think it's a little too early, Santita, and you know, I'm chomping at the bit too, but I just think it's too early, and you know, I'll leave it at that. I could go on forever, but I love listening to your show, though. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're so sweet. You're on your way to work?
Yes, I am. So,
Please
double
be
mask,
careful.
so
Okay.
I'm good.
Please be careful. And guess what?
Always.
You know, Amazon is not going to let you buy the N95 mask anymore. Right? You know,
Well, I try to shop on Amazon anyway.
Yeah, okay.
I don't like giving Daddy to pay more money. So.
Thank you. I just saw that and I said, "Whoa, wait a minute! They're not going. They're beginning to pull up the supply again, which I think is Facebook, Amazon, and others are restricting online sales of the masks, and that is from a New York Times story. I mean, just when people are reopening, when you had access to the N95, which is supposed to really be the gold standard, I think it's very, very interesting that they're doing that. Yeah. So, hey, Brian, be careful out there, okay?
I hope everybody stays safe at work, too, because I don't want to go into too much detail about what company I work for, but one of my managers ended up going on a surprise vacation for a couple weeks. All of a sudden came back and was very good about wearing a mask after he never wore it. Company's covering it up. So everybody be careful out there. Stay vigilant. Stay safe, okay?
Oh, you too. You too. Be safe and drive safely and keep listening and go, like I said, go to the podcast after the show so you can hear Rokana, because I know you want to hear what he's got to say, and he's got a lot to say.
Oh, yeah. I love listening to him on Tom Hartman's program. So I love it that you guys are giving him a platform and connecting them with the community.
Absolutely.
I think it's great.
Absolutely. More people need to know about him and all the wonderful work that he's doing. Indeed. Thank you so much, Brian. Sending you much love. Because he has an initiative. He's been working with Black colleges in South Carolina, but he's going to be moving all the way around the country to Black colleges. He is looking to recruit Black students from these HBCUs to get them out to Silicon Valley. He's doing a lot of great work, and so we can't wait to talk with him about that and what's happening in Washington. Reverend Jeanette Wilson, thank you so much for being with us today. We're going to have your dear friend, Texas Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis, with us to talk to us about what is happening in Texas.
Tell him I said hello. We're glad he's still fighting it on the wall. Thank you so much,
Hold on, he's
Santita.
about to come on just to wait in the commercial break. You can say hello to him. Because it's like, wait a minute.
Okay.
I sent him a text last night.
I love him.
I said, Commissioner Rodney. He's married to one of my girlfriends from college. I was like, what's up with Texas? Boy. Yeah. Leisha Green, she was one of the top officials in the Jackson 88 campaign after she finished school. So I was like, wait a minute, what's going on in Texas? What's going on in Mississippi? What's going on? And what is really, what are we looking at? I mean, indeed, Renee Criswell, you just asked a question. You said, look, a lot of people after they get this shot, they are lax with the masks. Because, they're assuming when you hear vaccine that you have immunity. That's not what happens here. You are mitigating the virus. If you develop COVID-19, which is the disease that comes from coronavirus, it mitigates it. It means it won't be as lethal. You won't have as hard a time dealing with it, right? But 30. The fact is, you can still catch coronavirus, COVID-19, and you can still spread it. So maybe we need to tweak that jargon a little bit. Maybe we need to tweak vaccine.
15.
Because when we hear vaccine, we think that means I don't get it anymore. I'm not going to get it. That's
10.
not what it means. So, we're going to be talking with Texas Harris County Commissioner
5.
Rodney Ellis about what's happening in Texas. They're about to reopen everybody. No mask, completely open. Are we ready to do that?
Uh,
Back in just a minute. Okay, so do we have Commissioner Ellis yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
you should have Dr. Freddie Haynes on as well
Oh, I would love
from
to.
Texas.
It's so early, but I do want to have him on because, of course,
Yeah.
Friendship West, that great church,
Yeah.
our churches are having to absorb a lot of this pain, you know?
Absolutely.
They are absorbing. They're absorbing a lot. They're absorbing a lot, having to give a lot of relief, which is what. Just very quickly, what has Push been doing? We're on Facebook Live.
Well, we're still giving. We're still distributing meals every day to seniors and children's shelters, children group homes for kids, and we still have our diaper drive. And because so many of our mothers or parents have lost jobs, and you can't buy diapers with the food stamp allocation, so we're also lobbying with.
You can't buy diapers.
You cannot buy diapers with your food stamp allocation. It's just like you can't buy liquor with food stamps. You can't buy diapers with food stamps, which is ridiculous. Senator Tammy Duckworth and Congresswoman Bass they've introduced legislation to change that. That's ridiculous. Something as essential and as costly as diapers are, can't get it with food stamps, so we're working on that. We're going to expand our food program. We call it Food Justice Program because we think every child that they want to open up these schools must have 3 healthy meals per day, and that means families need groceries. Families need a larger food allocation. If you got 4 to 5 children, the little money they get with food stamps is woefully insufficient. And if you're working and making minimum wage of $7 an hour, I go to the grocery store.
We have Commissioner Ellis.
Bill has tripled, and it's just my husband and I. And, we're not buying that much. They have upped the prices on everything.
Oh, absolutely. Well, hold on. Let me let you say hello to Commissioner Ellis because we're going to cut out of here in about a minute. Commissioner Ellis, I've got Reverend Jeanette Wilson.
Good morning.
We just love you. Thank you so much for all the work you do. You are absolutely a commissioner of commissioners.
We love this man.
Well, you are just a blessing. That's why I got up with you sisters early this morning. Set my clock to get up.
We thank you. I just love to hear him talk.
Oh my God!
Southern accent.
Do we not? I mean, look. I told you I got a thing for men with Southern accents. I don't know where that comes from.
1 minute.
It's something special about him. I'm telling you.
I love it.
Classy.
Vernon Jordan.
All right. Thank you, Sandy.
Sending you much love. Thank you, everybody. Of course, that was Reverend Jeanette Wilson, the pastor of Maple Park United Methodist Church. Please follow her. And of course, we've got you, Commissioner Ellis. Thank you for setting that clock. But you're sleeping at the clock. But you're not getting any rest.
Look, I'd be up tossing and turning anyway.
You're not getting any rest. Oh my gosh! Because we've gone from
back in 30.
Snow 2 weeks ago. It'll be 60 degrees in Chicago today. I mean, this is like
it'll probably. Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. All across the globe. We don't know what to expect next.
No. Well, we're about to come
15.
in. We're coming in. We're coming in.
Okay.
10. 5.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show, Wednesday, March 3rd, 2021. We're talking with Texas Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis down there in Texas. Indeed, Part of his jurisdiction is Houston, Texas, the fourth largest metropolitan area in the country. They're about to overtake Chicago as the number three. Number three. He oversees a lot of people. And we want to know, we just had him on a couple of weeks ago as we were talking about the frozen pipes and this disaster that they're still dealing with, this ecological disaster, this infrastructure disaster. Um, but now we see something else happening in the midst of this. This was just like a week ago. Texas governor
Yeah, it's
said,
about 10 days ago.
yeah, your governor said we're going to reopen the state. Texas and Mississippi are he's lifting the mask mandate and he's allowing businesses to open at 100% capacity, even though health officials from the CDC on down have said, please don't do this. Are you ready to reopen in Harris County and in Houston?
I think that Governor Abbott is absolutely doing the wrong thing. The testing positivity rate in Texas is now a little under 10%. That's an improvement from early January when we were about 20% of the tests coming back positive, but it's still well short of a rate of 5% or lower, and that's what's recommended by the World Health Organization. We got about 2.6 million confirmed cases of COVID-19. We've had more than 43,000 people to die from the virus. Only two states, California and New York, have reported more COVID-19 deaths than we've had in Texas. We rank at the bottom in terms of our vaccination rate. So we are the worst among 50 states. And as of yesterday, Houston, which is the county seat here in Harris County, became the first city to record all COVID-19 strands. Now, I'm not sure that's the first one in the country or first one on the globe, but the first city to record all major COVID-19 strains. So that means all of the bad stuff you can think of is here. You know, when I was in the legislature and somebody would give us some statistic about something crazy in Texas, and then somebody would say the only other place that's worse than Texas would be Mississippi. So the running joke was, thank God for Mississippi. Now, that's a hell of a deal. For Texas and Mississippi, the governors to go against the CDC director's mandate. I think Dr. Walensky just warned states on yesterday. She said, now is not the time to slack up. Keep moving forward. And something as simple as wearing a mask, opening restaurants at 100%. I went to a dinner the other night. I think it was the third time I've been to a restaurant in a year with our friend Milton Carroll.
Yes.
And you know, Kirk was there, your former treasurer, was there as well. You know, he's in Texas some of the time now, but we went to dinner. There were 10 of us in a large room. One person didn't make it, so there were 9 of us. But, you know, we did practice social distancing. We stepped up to go somewhere. We put our mask on to go to the facilities. And the restaurant was at limited capacity. And now to say businesses can open up at 100%, not only are you putting those individuals that opt to go at risk, what about the employees? What about those workers who have to go and do it? I think it's a big mistake, and it's hard to figure out why. I mean, I was at the events when President Biden was in Houston last Friday, and I saw the governor. He was nice. He was dropping hints about opening the state up, but not saying what that meant. But our mayor, Sylvester Turner's come out against it. The county judge, our county exec, Lena Hidalgo, very forcefully come out against it. It's a big mistake. And he does have the power to limit what we can do on the local level. And by the way, you got to have a consistent message to convince people. Here's the last point. The number of African Americans and Hispanics, we have a large Latinx population here, people of color are still reluctant to go and get the vaccines, even as the rollout has improved. So it is a big problem. I've had it. My wife has not. You know, I'm in the category over the age group, and I went to send a signal to African Americans in particular that we ought to get the shot. But look, it's a big problem, and I can't read the politics of it. I don't see what it means unless it's a distraction from the weak lax oversight of our grid in Texas. You know, the blackout that we went through from the storm, it's a difficult thing to explain. It's just crazy. But they shows like consequences to elections.
Well, I'm trying to find out what is this rooted in. One of the headlines from the Texas Tribune says, the story goes that he is buckling under pressure to GOP critics. Other headlines and other stories say that, well, he's responding to the call of small and big businesses. What do you think is pushing him? Or is it
I,
politics? Is it business? Is
I
it
think it's I think it's a combination. It's all a guess because he didn't lay out why he would do it now. I think that he's worried about a challenge to his right. Can you imagine that in Texas? But the head of the Texas Republican Party has certainly been making noises. That's the rumor that he may run, and it's such a small sliver, far right element, fringe element that controls the Republican Party. I think that's a big part of it. You talk about state, 30 million people. I mean, it is we have 29 million people in Texas, second most populous state in the country, so far to the right. I think it's the fear politics, and of course he's getting pressure from businesses. But look, I'm sure he's looking at the polling data. Let's just be real. I'm sure they've done focus groups. They looked at the polling data and this kind of individual preference thing, kind of a Texas thing. And that far element is what controls the Republican primary. And then when you get to the general election, I'm sure that they'll try and pass even more restrictive voter registration rules to make it harder for people to register and harder to vote. So he's assuming if he can get past his primary, which is roughly a year from now, it'll be smooth sailing for him to get another 4-year term as governor because it will repress the vote of people who I think to blame out. And that rumors that Beto's going to run. I certainly hope that he does. He's looking at it, making noises. When I talk to him, he's contemplating. But I think that's probably a part of it. I think it's more of a political calculation. Everybody knows the economy is hurting. Looking at a time when another stimulus package is about to pass. A record size stimulus package.
what is going to happen then? I mean, can you kind of play out? Do you think that more people than not will be obedient to the lifting of this mandate? I mean, do you expect now for people to go unmasked? Do you expect them to now go into movie theaters and to pack restaurants and bars? Do you think that'll happen now?
We've heard a lot of talk about the herd immunity. We have not talked as much about the herd mentality. You saw it with that insurrection at the Capitol, right? So don't think just about a herd immunity. Think about, that herd mentality, and people tend to mimic for whatever reason. We as human beings tend to do what we see others doing. I have a 17-year-old here at the house, and every time I'm around, it scares me to death. She says she's going to these pop-up movie theaters and they're staying in the car. Okay, sure. It's a challenge. It means that if my friends, certain constituents see people at restaurants and there's a line outside the place, you inclined to go and do it. And people at the top, people in leadership have to be the example. I'm not sure whether or not we will no longer be able to meet through social distancing for our meetings virtually. We've been having our commissioners meeting virtually. We meet every 2 weeks, long, all-day event. And I'm not sure in open meetings we can even do that. 2 of our Republican colleagues decided to go into the chamber, sit there with no mask on. The other 3 of us, the judge and the other commissioner, and I were in our respective offices on Zoom, videoing. But I'm sure they probably knew what the government was going to do, and they kind of laid it out. But I think to a great extent, people are going to ignore it. So we'll do PSAs. I'll run stuff on social media, put notices out. I'm still not going to do in-person meetings. If I do, it'll be in a large conference room with me on one end, somebody on the other end. But it's going to put a lot of pressure on people. Churches, will feel pressure. They've adjusted. It's difficult to do it there. Their services are online and virtually, but it's going to put a lot of pressure on. And the domino effect comes into play. If some people do it, others will feel the pressure as well. And then I think the way it plays out is if we have a fourth surge with all of the strands here, I'm sure the governor will say, well, in my order, I said if the capacity reaches hospital capacity, you have 15% infection rate at hospitals from COVID, then you can put more stringent measures in. Kind of that yo-yo effect. That drives people crazy. I think you need to get this over with. And we've seen in other parts of the world where they did the lockdown and stopped, it created problems. So I think it's a big mistake. Don't do it in Illinois. If it changes in Chicago, don't go. Don't go out.
Well, I mean, I'm wondering because there's a big national push. I mean, we're seeing this piecemeal. We're talking with Texas Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis. Call me at 773-763-WCPT, 773-763-9278. Are we ready to reopen in Chicago? Are we ready to reopen in Minneapolis, St. Paul, in Madison, Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin? Are we ready? Do you want to do this? Do you feel comfortable? Because we're seeing it, a divide. Everyone talks about the hesitancy of the Black and Latinx community, particularly the Black community, to get this vaccine. But the studies show that the people who are most reluctant are white Republicans. So I mean, you have a lot of folks who have a lot of resistance, but but we're seeing a national push to get people back into school. That's laudable. But my question is, are we ready? I'm very, very worried about this because now, I mean, because part of the reason I think you have all these different strains of COVID-19. Houston is an international city. Can you describe that for us? Because it's like you're one of the oil capitals of the world.
We are a large center of commerce. We're a very diverse population. The port is here. We are on the border, major airports, a rapidly growing city. Many people come because the cost of living is perceived to be fairly inexpensive. We don't have an income tax. Then you get here and find out the reason we don't have more taxes is because we don't have many services. But it's a magnet. It attracts a lot. We're in the center of the country. Just think about it. We got, 50, 60 different languages, whatever you can think of is here. In many ways, people come because of those jobs. Major medical center, Texas Southern University is here. Rice University, University of Houston. It has become a major place that attracts people in horse. It is a big challenge. You said earlier that many Republicans don't want to take the shot. The statistics bear out. Most of the people who are taking it are people who are white. They are more fluent, more educated. I think one reason why there's a reluctance on the part of African Americans to get the shot is because of the historical, testing of people who had syphilis, that experiment, but also because we didn't take the affordable health care money. The governor refuses, the state legislature refuses to take the money from the Affordable Care Act. And as a result of that, you have a culture of people who are not accustomed to going to doctors. So part of our struggle is to get it out in those communities. We don't have a major mass transit system. So if you don't have a car, the city is spread out. If you don't have a car, it's hard to get around. But look, people come. The weather here is perfect most of the time, other than the summer or when you have a winter storm. But, whatever it is, it's attracting people, of all persuasions. And our Latinx community in particular is it's amazing. The attraction here and people, Vietnamese community. It's a major international city, and most people would not think of Houston being that way. But when you come, I mean, whatever kind of food you like, it's here. But with that come all of the challenges of an urban area. We also have a very young population here. So that creates problems as well. but that lack of health insurance, big problem in the precinct that I represent, about 1.2 million people. Biggest health care issue is obesity. About a third of the people are classified as obese, and that triggers a host of other issues.
Really?
In Black communities around the country, one of the fastest growing businesses, by the way, would be these dialysis clinics. And a lot of that is tied to diet. And in the Hispanic community, that's a big problem. And, lack of education about it. People don't know, over reliance on carbs, not access to healthy food, all of that junk you can get at the little neighborhood store, wrapped up, carb release. Look, last fall, we're going to have a spike as a result of that winter storm. I mean, when I was in my house with my shoes on, all night freezing one night, got out, as I mentioned to you a couple of weeks ago, the second night and slept in the office. My wife and daughter moved to a one-bedroom apartment with her sister at a sister's place in Chicago. But a lot of people had to do what they had to do. We got these massive distribution drives going on where we're taking water out, food out. We had a number of households who had pipes that burst. We still have some people who don't have water, so we're distributing water today. Obviously, it's a little difficult to do these distributions of food and water and expect people to social distance. Had the event largest mosque in the county, did a distribution in the heart of Fifth Ward, the Nickel, historic Black neighborhood. Barbara Jordan, Mickey Leland are both from low-income neighborhood. Mosque wanted to come in. It was a pop-up. They called me about midnight Friday night and said, we'll be at this park, community center in your precinct Sunday. And, they just want to do something. But they weren't thinking about security, restrooms. So the mayor and I teamed up and we got it out there. But, they were so happy to do it, but they weren't social distancing. I've had the shots. My staff members are telling me, you got to get out of here. People want to come over and take pictures with you, not just for your safety. You've had the shots. You could be carrying it, not knowing it, and give it to people who are doing selfies with you. But so it's a big problem. I expect that could be a spike. And most of the healthcare professionals are saying if the governor of Texas was going to remove the requirement of wearing a mask, he should at least have waited a couple of weeks so we could see if these numbers are going to go up. Because if they do go up, it's a difficult thing to backpedal. Then you look at other focus groups, a host of other issues. It's not an easy thing in government for somebody to say, you know what, I screwed up. Let me change it. Now, we ought to do it, but it's not an easy thing to do. Then you pundits will have a field day on it. So I think it's a big mistake for them to do it.
Oh, look, I'm gonna give you some space. I wanted to get it right. Let me go to, I have, let me go to Chaparral. Chaparral, what's on your mind?
Yes, Santita, I just had a quick question for Commissioner Ellis. And it was basically what he was just talking about, coming off of this winter storm in Texas and how the system was basically already depleted. How are you going to deal with that and COVID at the same time? Because we know that because you have the lack of resources right now for water, healthy water, clean water, and some people are still out without electricity and things of that nature. And then you're going to expose them to this virus, and the sanitation is not even working properly. And so my thing is that how are Texans going to deal with that? And I feel that it's going to increase the exposure and the numbers in Texas. And so what can the local officials, maybe in your own city, I know the governor runs the state, but can the mayors continue to actually press for masks and, hand sanitation and all of that and override the governor?
It's a great question. The mayor and the county exec cannot override the governor under his executive order. Virtue of laws of the state of Texas, he makes the decision. The executive order does say if the number of infection rates go above a certain number, people who are hospitalized for COVID, then you can put some additional restrictions on. But we do have the bully pulpit. The mayor, the county exec have that, and most of us are singing the same song with them. Our Republican friends on city council are not doing it, and the Republican county officials are not doing it. But so you do have those competing interests. Hey, it's interesting. You notice how we all would call it a winter storm. Can you imagine snow, a snowstorm in Houston and in Texas? But look, it's like a triple threat. Think about it. You had COVID going on. You had the economic fallout going on. Then you had the winter storm. Then I guess the fourth tragic event would be a governor showing no leadership in this regard, bending to the whims, in my judgment, of focus groups. It's politics. It's being more worried about getting reelected instead of doing the job. I think we have to remember people who in politics, it's not the end of the world if I don't have some title in front of my name. I'm still riding it. You may like my southern accent even better. I can split a few verbs and not have to worry about it. But I just think it's politics. It's pretty sad. We're going to do our best to work around it. You know, I'm doing a demonstration with one of Rev Jackson's good friends, Bishop Dixon here,
Yes.
Local civil rights leader. In 1960, about 13 students from Texas Southern University were watching what was going on in Greensboro, North Carolina, where 4 students started those sit-ins to integrate lunch counters. So this is the first one in Texas, west of the Mississippi, 14 kids, and we're going to reenact their walk, which triggered opening things in Houston. And they didn't integrate the money. It's an interesting video I'm going to send you. It's called The Strange Demise of Jim Crow in Houston, because they had a news blackout. But look, we're going to reenact that. We have Reverend Bill Lawson, close friend of Reverend Jackson's, who was the advisor to these students. He's 92. We're going to put him on a bus that I had made with his picture on the side of it. He's not walking these days. But we're going to reenact to talk about issues of the day, including the lack of access to health care. But look, we're going to restrict how many people can go. Mayor Sylvester Turner will probably show up, a number of elected officials, but we're going to social distance. We can't make people wear masks. We're going to pass out masks. We're going to go to CUNY Homes, housing project that George Floyd grew up in. We're going to distribute water. So what we're going to do on our level is try to work around it. And look, as Black people, we've always had to make a way where there wasn't a way. It's crazy, but people here and in Mississippi, local officials, our congressional leaders, we just have to try and work around it. I think it'd be difficult to pass a massive nationwide policy, but in more states, these numbers go up. I hope they don't. I pray that they don't. I pray that all of the things the healthcare experts are worried about, and I'm worried about, don't happen. I want to use my words carefully. So I don't want to be in a position where we're saying, we told you so, because people will die if that happens. But we just have to work around it.
Well, we've been talking with Texas Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis about what we hope will not happen. But I tell you, even though the numbers are trending down all across the country for COVID-19, we're still not out of the woods. And when I compound your reopening, you were just on here a little more than a week ago. You still, many of your constituents and many people throughout the state of Texas do not have drinkable water. I'm just trying to, how does this work?
And Santita, I'm still drinking bottled water. The water's back on. We don't have a boil ban. But you know what? They didn't have one in Flint. So just to be safe, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I brush my teeth, I keep my mouth closed when I get in the shower. You just never know. But and there are people who still, you're right, who still don't have running water in their homes because the pipes burst. Even when the stimulus package passes, I've read the reports about how this will be one of the biggest opportunities to reduce the disparity index, people who are in poverty in the country. Now, I don't know how long that will last because the checks
1 minute
last forever. But look, it's a big challenge. We're in for some very tough times. And here, we're going to hurricane season soon. How do people buy generators? I don't have a generator at my home, but I'm about to get one. I'm going to try to get one for my daughter's home. It's a big challenge because now we go back into another season where we have to be worried, and we're going to
30.
get hot again pretty soon. You know, we went through that when Trump was in office. You know, what was he saying? Well, when it got hot, it would all burn up. You know, the virus would go. Well, it's about to get hot again.
15.
You know, and it didn't burn up last time. You know, you have to laugh.
10.
Commissioner Rodney Ellis, everybody,
5.
giving us some information, you know, and what has happened in Texas could happen here, everybody. Think about that. And in Minneapolis, too. Rokana coming up on the Santita Jackson Show. Commissioner,
Thank you, my friend.
You know I love you, and I'm just please give Leisha my love because I'm very concerned. When I saw this, I said, "You gotta be kidding me! These people, this is crazy." And you just don't stop.
It's the craziest thing in the world. Craziest thing in the world.
Oh
and look, call somebody from Mississippi as well. My heart goes out for them. But with us, I didn't mention it. What are the national implications for us? Because it's such a big state. We have 30 million people who travel, by the way.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I feel like this is like a super spreader event statewide. I mean,
yeah. I've not been on an airplane, Santita. I'm in no rush.
Hey.
Okay, give my love to the family.
Oh, I will. Call Dad. You know he's out. He's home now.
Oh, is he? Okay, I called him yesterday. I hadn't gotten. Is he up this early? I may buzz him before I hop back in his bed for an hour.
Keep trying him because he is still on a rigorous schedule of therapy, but at least he is out. So
is he up this early?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. You know.
Okay,
look,
I'm gonna call him now.
He is chomping at the bit.
All right.
So if you don't reach him, I love you. If you don't reach him, call Mom's phone.
I will. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Love you much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, I just love Commissioner Ellis, don't you? Something to think about. A lot of people go through Houston. Okay? This is one of the busiest airports in the world, and everybody in the world goes through Houston because it's one of the capitals, one of the energy capitals for the world. So think about that. This is not just, we're going to go through. No. Everybody goes through Houston. And when you go through that part of the country, if you have a connecting flight, you go through Houston's airport. Yeah. That's a big deal. So think about that. But we're going to be talking about Tanya. You want to talk about vaccine hesitancy? Let's bring up Tanya. Tanya, how you doing, sweetie?
Oh, I'm doing fine. I'm just ticked off at this whole process and all this information about, I don't know, I'm just over people, talking about vaccine hesitancy and couching it in, in the context of Tuskegee. Half the Black people around today do not even know what Tuskegee is, okay? So
you know what it is? Tanya, I think it's the historical, because Tuskegee is like a flashpoint, but the fact is, historically, we have been mistreated and we've been experimented on in this 400 plus years that we've been here. So Tuskegee is a metaphor. It's a metaphor. Because you have the Mississippi appendectomy, where Black women were sterilized without their permission. And we saw that happening with the women on the border. There's a lot going on here. And we saw as late as last year, just months ago. No, let's not go back 12 months. When many Black people went to get tested, after you heard about the symptoms of COVID-19, people would present themselves at the hospital, and they were turned away.
Exactly. Actually, a Black physician, she filmed her experience. She died in the hospital.
Absolutely.
It was all over Facebook.
They wouldn't pay attention
to her. So we all saw that.
They wouldn't pay attention to
but
this.
But on top of that, I wanted to add, too, that this vaccine hesitancy, it's not a single issue that people are looking at. They're looking at multiple things that impact them should they take a vaccine. So people have to take additional time to consider, hey, do these things outweigh the cost of getting vaccination? One of the key things for a lot of us in healthcare and any essential service worker is one, okay, what supports do I have from my employer, from the government, from the state, should I become ill as a result of taking this? These are real concerns.
Well, I want to ask you this. You're in the space. Tell me, A vaccine provides immunity, right?
Right.
Okay. This
Well,
does not.
it provides not, I hate to say immunity in that context because it's
Okay,
more
help me.
of a protection. From my understanding of it, of a vaccine, I look at it in terms of how would I look at the flu.
Okay.
It's not a cure, and I feel like it's being marketed as a cure-all for the pandemic and all of its associated consequences, and it's not.
Well, that because remember the head of Merck said that Americans were being were being they were not being told he said they're being basically you're not being told that you're being sold a bill of goods. And you didn't see him
Right.
anymore. He said, "Look, this is not the silver bullet." That's how he put it. Because it doesn't prevent you from getting coronavirus. It doesn't prevent you from developing COVID-19. It mitigates it.
Exactly.
And I think people
Exactly.
so when I got the measles vaccine, rubella, polio, all that stuff, it prevented you from getting it. But you know what? I got to
Yeah,
run because
that's totally different.
it's
Yeah.
not. But you know what? Call back tomorrow but I've got Congressman Connor here. Send him some love. Say hello to Congressman Connor before you go.
Hello, Congressman Connor. You're doing awesome stuff. We need more like you. Oh my God.
Well, hi. How are you? I heard your segment. Thank you for the work you're doing on the pandemic. We need people like you. So I appreciate it.
I had to let her give you some love today because that's how people feel.
Well,
about
that made my morning. I appreciate that.
That's
I
how people.
appreciate it.
That's how people feel.
Back
about
in 1
you.
minute.
So I just wanted
Well,
you to know.
that's just because you keep saying nice things about me on your show. Eventually, listeners are gonna that's gonna transfer. So it was great to talk to you this morning.
It's great talking to you, but
you.
thank you, sweetie. You keep fighting for us, and that's one of the things that we love. Can't wait to see what you're going to do on the national stage because we need a fight.
Santita, how's your father doing? How's
today.
He's been in my thoughts.
He got out of the hospital, so he is
Good.
out now.
Back
He
in
just
30
got out
days.
yesterday.
Good.
So-
Well, I've been following that. Frank's been keeping me posted, and that's good news.
Call me, call Johnny, call any of us. We will connect you to him forthwith. You could always
Wonderful.
15.
Do that now that he's out.
do that. No,
Wonderful.
you should have called him while he was in, because trust me, he was when he wasn't exhausted by therapy, because therapy is really rigorous.
5.
But call him today. We'll make sure that happens.
Wonderful. I look forward to
This
doing
is
that.
the Santita Jackson Show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's Wednesday, March 3rd, 2021. Yes, it is hump day. Chicago, we're going to have a high of 49 degrees. It might even get up to 60. That's what I'm seeing some of the reports now. It'll be sunny. It's a beautiful day. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 44 degrees, partly cloudy. Of course, I'm coming to you from WCPT, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Yesterday, we saw the Dow fall by 143 points. The NASDAQ closed 230 points lower, and the S&P 500 closed down 31 points, dedicating the show today to a civil rights icon, an icon in corporate America, really an icon of American life. Vernon Jordan found out at the end of the show yesterday that he had made his transition the night before. 85 years of age. Many people knew him as the first friend of President Bill Clinton, but the fact is he was the first friend of everyone who knew him. If you were in the civil rights movement, he was your first friend. If you were in corporate America, he was your first friend. If you were trying to understand the ways of power, he was the first friend. And he will be really, really missed. You should get his memoir, Vernon Can Read. You got to read it because it really is quite something. What a journey. What a magnificent journey. Quite frankly, that could only happen in America. Indeed. And of course, what can I tell you, everybody? He's a Howardite. Ow, just like your girl here. All right, everybody, let's get to some of these headlines here. President Biden says that the U.S. will have enough vaccines for 300 million adults by the end of May. And indeed, we have an historic coming together. Two vaccine giants, two medical giants, Johnson & Johnson and Merck, have struck a deal where Merck will help them to manufacture their one-shot vaccines. We've not seen anything like this before, but they will be able to push out more of these vaccines. And of course, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is known to be 66% efficacious, that is effective. The House has withdrawn, the White House has withdrawn the nomination of Neera Tanden. Progressives were pushing back against her. She's always had a lot of problems with Social Security and a lot of other progressive issues. She just didn't have the votes. And of course, President Biden said in a statement, I've accepted Neera Tanden's request to withdraw her name from nomination for Director of the Office of Management and Budget. But it is rumored that the Biden administration is looking for a place for her, a substantive place for her. Cecilia Rouse became the first Black woman to chair the White House Council of Economic Advisors. The Senate vote wasn't even close, everybody, 95-4, with most Republicans joining the Democrats in saying yes. Rouse is the dean of Princeton University School of Public and International Affairs, and she was previously a member of the Council of Economic Advisors under President Obama. Congratulations to her. The notorious RBG could be honored with a monument at the U.S. Capitol. That's right, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We will see what will happen. A bill was introduced yesterday by the House Democratic Women's Caucus, including co-chairs Jackie Speier out of California, Lois Frankel and Brenda Lawrence, and others. They would construct a monument of the feminist legal titan in a place of prominence at the Capitol. She would be joining, maybe in Statuary Hall, the great Rosa Parks, the first African American and the first woman in that hall. So let's get to, and of course, Rhode Island Governor Gina Raimondo became the Commerce Secretary yesterday, and President Biden has prioritized vaccines for teachers, child care workers, with a goal of one dose for all by the end of March. Do not go to Facebook or Amazon if you want an N95 mask. Forget about it. Now those days are done. Wow, let's get right to it, everybody. We have got our guest we're so excited to have. Congressman Ro Khanna. One of the things that we love about Ro Khanna, we found out a few weeks ago that the most popular politician in America, interestingly enough, maybe next to Donald Trump, is Bernie Sanders. And I asked Frank Watkins, Reverend Jesse Jackson's communications director for more than 50 years, why do you think that is? He said, because, some people say they're on your side. Others actually get in the ring and fight for you. That's what we see with Bernie. But we see that with this gentleman as well. Of course, he's a friend and a family member of this show. We're so excited that he's here with us today because you know what he said about this parliamentarian who said, you can't put the $15 an hour minimum wage hike in this $1.9 trillion relief package. He said, I'm sorry. An unelected parliamentarian does not get to deprive 32 million Americans the raise they deserve. Everybody, welcome to the show, the great Congressman Ro Khanna. How are you today?
Santita, it's just wonderful to be on with you. I am so excited. I knew we were going to be chatting this morning, and I'm delighted to be on.
Oh, I'm delighted to have you. Help me understand what happened in Washington. We've got this. The House. They did their job, and in fact, they fulfilled the Democrats' promise to raise the minimum wage from $7.25 to $15 an hour. What happened?
Well, Santita, it's very frustrating. I mean, this is the core of the Democratic platform. We promised this to people who risk the pandemic to come out and vote. We said you can't live on $7.25 in this country. I don't know any place in this country where you can live and have an apartment and support a family on $7.25. Frankly, it's very, very hard to do it on $15. But at least we should have a $15 wage. And by the way, workers are producing $23 of value. So it's not asking for any charity. It's just saying pay workers what they deserve. The House passes it, and by the way, it's a gradual move. I mean, some of us said, let's do $15 now. The House, we compromised, we got it. It doesn't go into effect till 2024. I mean, it's a gradual increase. So we already compromised. Now it goes to the Senate, and the parliamentarian rules that it doesn't have an impact on the budget. Now, this is I'm not blaming the parliamentarian. The problem is that we're deferring to the parliamentarian. But the ruling on its face doesn't make any sense. I mean, how do you say that you can repeal the Affordable Care Act because it has a budget impact, or you can drill ANWR because it has a budget impact. But raising the minimum wage, which doesn't have a budget impact, when you would be getting so much more tax revenue if people were making more. So we said, look, in the past, the vice president has disregarded the parliamentarian. I don't have a doubt in my mind if there was a Republican vice president, they would disregard the parliamentarian and we would get the wage passed. The danger, Santita, if I can say one more sentence before taking your comments and calls, the danger is this. If we don't pass it in reconciliation, and the Biden administration has said they don't want to get rid of the filibuster, then it's not just a $15 wage. We will not get a minimum wage increase in this country in the next 2 years unless we get 10 Republican senators to vote for it, if it's not done through reconciliation. So you tell me, do you think a Republican senator is going to support any substantial minimum wage increase, 10 of them, when not one of them is even willing to support the COVID relief bill? And they say, well, look at Romney at $10. First of all, $10 is too low. But look at the poison pill. He wants $10 if we have restriction on immigration. We can't do that. So this is our real chance to have a wage, and that's what people need to realize, that the fight is now.
We're talking with Congressman Ro Khanna from California about the fight for 15, the fight to keep 15 in. What do you think about it? Call me at 773-763 WCPT, 773-763-9278. Before I go to the callers, help me. What does $7.25 an hour, what does that look like for people right now? I mean, we've lost tens of millions of jobs. People don't have the health insurance that they had a year ago today. I mean, we're really, some people, where I live, people call this a depression. I mean, every other person I know is looking for a job or looking for another job or looking for some kind of gig. So they a bridge to get to the other side. I mean, food costs more, Congressman Khanna. Rent has not gone down. What are people supposed to, what do they expect people to do? And then what about the Democrats in 2022?
Well, Santita, you're absolutely right. I mean, the 15 million people have lost their health insurance at a time where we have a healthcare crisis in this country. It's a scandal. Every news story should lead with that fact. In the United States of America, the wealthiest country in the world, 15 million people have lost their health care, and our government is doing nothing about it while we're in the midst of a national health care crisis. And as you know, as always happens in this country, that is disproportionately people who are working class, disproportionately people who are black, disproportionately people who are brown. That is the sad reality. And so, okay, we've been pushing and saying, why don't we at least give Medicare to everyone during this crisis? I get it. Bernie Sanders didn't win the presidency. Fine. I mean, we can't expect everything. But $15, this is what every Democratic candidate ran on. This was our promise. It was our promise in Georgia. And at least that's putting a few more bucks in people's pockets so that they can go and afford a doctor's visit, the copays, even if, so they can afford to possibly get some health care insurance, so they can afford to have some rent. It's about basic dignity. And this is why Reverend Barber has a beautiful piece in the Nation talking about the moral fight, the just fight. I mean, it's a plea almost to Vice President Harris, not done with any kind of malice or putting her on the spot. It's a plea to her to be in the tradition of the great civil rights activists and get this done. And one point, and because, Reverend Jackson, this has been his fight his whole life. But when Dr. King, as you know, the March on Washington, that was not just about racial justice. It was about a $2 minimum wage, $2 wage back then. Back then, a $2 wage would be $17 today. So it's incomprehensible to me that for all the deference we pay to Dr. King and his vision, that 50 years later, we still haven't been able to achieve what he wanted. And finally, the House Democrats do it. Finally, the votes are there, because I don't believe Manchin or Sinema would vote against the package once it's actually in. And we have this chance, and the question is, do we have the courage to actually get it done?
Should it be put to a vote? Should it stay in and then
it should
put
be
to a vote?
It should be put. It should stay in. It should be put to the vote. And people say, well, compromise. Well, even to compromise, the first thing is it has to be in, right? Even Manchin has said, I'm for $11 or $12. Now, I think 15, but the point is, if it's not the parliamentarian ruling stands, you can't get 11, you can't get 12, you can't get anything. So the first step is just rule it in. Otherwise, basically what you're saying is for the next 2 years, we're going to get nothing done that Mitt Romney doesn't want because we're going to need 10 Republican votes. And by the way, McConnell isn't going to allow that. The only way they would allow that is if they put these poison pills in. They'll say, okay, we'll give you $10, but you have to restrict all immigration. And you know that the Democrats can't do that. So this is the moment that we have to make this happen.
Let me go to Chaparral. Chaparral, so you had to call back to speak with Congressman Connor. Go for it.
I absolutely had to call back. I just got off the phone with Santita, but it was so important that I called in because I need the Democrats to understand what's at risk here if they don't push for the 15. I mean, we delivered you the House, the Senate, and the White House. And we want a return on our vote. And they need to understand that not only did we hold our nose and vote for Biden when we knew that he was not progressive and his thought process was not progressive, we still did it because we wanted to have something other than Trump in 2020. And now you're expecting us to cave on the promises that was given to the American people. I want people to understand, and I hope that you can take this back to Congress, that $15 an hour is only $600 a week. The average rent, and I'm saying I'm being very generous with my rent analogy. It's $750 for a 2-bedroom apartment. It's going to take you a check and a half to pay that rent. Then you have to pay your utilities. And then what if you have a car note or childcare or health care and food? $15 an hour is not enough and it's not sustainable, but it's a start to help American people come out of poverty. And so I think that you actually, for these people in Congress who are making over $100,000 a year, they don't understand the struggle of the people who are on the ground. They don't understand because they are removed from that struggle. They don't understand. And so you have to get up there just like you teach a kindergartner, and you have to give them a whiteboard and let's add it out. Let's dot it out what people are paying for rent, what cost of food has tripled since the pandemic. You'd have to break it down to them so that way maybe their heart can open and see what we are dealing with on the ground. But if Democrats don't push and support this bill, you can forget 2022. This will be shellacking, and you will lose the House and the Senate.
Hold on,
because what
Connor.
are we doing?
Yes,
what are we doing,
Congressman Connor?
I hear you, and I respect your passion and everything you said. And in fact, I'm thinking it to myself. Maybe I ought to be putting this out as you did on social media and with colleagues. $600 a week. You know, what is the rent? What are utilities? What is food? How do you make a budget? But I agree with you. The people showed up. They risked their health in the pandemic. They showed up in droves to vote. And they showed up to vote because Donald Trump was an existential threat to our democracy. But they also showed up to vote because we made some promises. And one of the biggest promises we made was a $2,000 check. And the other biggest promise we made was a $15 wage, a wage of dignity. And I think, and I've told this to the White House, and I've told this to colleagues, and a number of my colleagues agree, that the danger if we don't do this is not that those folks are going to go and vote for a Republican. The danger is they're just going to say it doesn't matter, and we're not going to show up. And you know who is going to show up? Donald Trump's base is going to show up in 2022. And if our base gets demoralized, and if our base doesn't show up, that's how we lose these elections. That's how we lost in '94. That's how we lost in 2010. So to me, this is a moral issue, but as you pointed out, this is also a political issue. It's no one is going to not vote because we overturned a parliamentarian. I don't know a single voter who's going to say, you know what, I'm not going to vote for the Democrats because they overturned the Senate parliamentarian to get a $15 wage. But I do know a lot of people are going to say, I'm not going to show up and vote for them because they didn't deliver on what they promised.
This is you hear her passion. You hear her passion. Let me go to. Well, let me see who else, because we have a lot of people who want to jump in with you today. Let me go to first Alan from Indiana. Alan, how are you?
Yes, I just want to know, and I think that we need to increase the rate, believe me. But so many businesses going out of business, small business, medium business, how are you going to compensate these businesses in order to pay the higher increasing hourly rate?
Alan, it's a great question. First of all, we have the PPP program, which has to be targeted actually to small business and will be. In the previous administration, that money was not going to small businesses. It wasn't going to black or brown businesses. It was going to businesses worth over $1 million. Secondly, I have said, and others have said, that for really small businesses that are struggling, where paying $15 may be too much, the federal government can give a tax credit and provide assistance. And that is totally understandable. But there are a lot of people who are working at Amazon, who are working at Target, who are working at Walmart. Those companies can afford to pay $15. So help the small businesses, but don't let these big corporations that are making trillions of dollars get away with underpaying their workers.
You know what, Alan? I mean, excuse me. Did that help you at all?
That helps, but it's still, hanging out there, because you hear that from the government quite a bit. And I'm sure the small business owners are going to look at this and say, okay, this is what we're going to have to, what we need in order to compensate. So I think you're going to have a direct operation signaling each one, taking in the cross-reach small business in order to do this. You also mentioned that people are turning out $23 per hour right now. What is that based on? I find that intriguing. How did you arrive at that figure?
Sure. There's a paper by Economic Policy Institute that says from 1938, when the minimum wage was instituted, to 1968, the minimum wage in this country kept up with the average productivity of American labor, American workers. That average productivity of American workers today is $23. But in 68, the relationship was severed, and we didn't increase minimum wage up to correspond with average worker productivity. So you have a situation now that worker productivity is actually, the average American worker is producing $23 an hour. Now you could say some is higher wage workers are producing more and lower wage workers are less, but it's such a disparity. I mean, the average is 23 and minimum wage is stuck at 7.25. And we're saying just move the minimum wage to $15. In the past, up till 68, it was always corresponding with average worker productivity.
Absolutely. You know what? I have one of your dear friends who called in. He heard that you were going to be on today. Jonathan Jackson, the national spokesman for
Oh,
Push.
I love Jonathan.
Jonathan?
Hey, Brother Rokana.
How are you doing, Brother Jackson? How are you doing?
Let me tell you, I am so proud of you. This was always labeled the fight for 15, and I want to commend you for your integrity. A promise made, a promise kept. You are in the fight, and I think people need to know that you have to play much nicer than me. But our own senator from the state of Illinois, Dick Durbin, has punted and passed. He doesn't want to engage in the fight for $15. My wife, Marilyn, she works at the United Way, and she was just sharing with me about the Alice report. The Alice report I would recommend for the United Way site has all this great information as well. The federal poverty laws have not been updated since the 70s. So, Rokana, I just want to commend you. You hit the road during the Sanders campaign. You took the strikes and the knocks, and you fought, and you're fighting today. We have the power. I do hope that the vice president steps forward and steps up. We need to update those lynching laws. They should have been passed. We also need to fight for the working man. So keep up the great work. Love your work, Santita.
1 minute.
Love you, my brother Kana, and thanks for all that you do.
Well, the last minute belongs to you, Congressman Kana.
Well, Brother Jackson, thank you. That is so kind of you, especially because you and Santita and others have been fighting for the dignified wage for your whole lives. And now we have a moment. And, people say, why some of the folks, they got calls from senior people. Why are you making this an issue? Why aren't you just celebrating what the bill has? And I said, yes, the bill has a lot of good things, but I'm making this an issue not because it's some personal issue, because when I was out there for Bernie Sanders, when I've been out there for in my own district, which is a wealthy district but has income inequality, I hear people
15.
saying we want a dignified wage to live. And you don't
10.
have to have gone through the struggles. But you have to be open enough to
5.
your heart to hear the struggles, to listen to the struggles. And that to me is the mark of what democratic leadership is all about. And for so long, people's voices have not been heard.
And that is you, Ro Khanna, Congressman Ro Khanna. You are our guy in Washington. We love you because you love us, and you show us because you fight for us. Continuing this conversation about the fight for 15, everybody, give Ro Khanna your support. Congressman Khanna deserves it. Maybe make him senator from California more. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in a minute. Congressman Khanna, you know I just adore you. And I am...
Well,
Yes.
I appreciate it. I adore you, Santita. We need to do this more often. The 8 o'clock hour works actually really nicely for me.
Whenever you want.
If it works for you.
Whenever you want to do it, if you want to do it once a month, twice a month, once a week, whatever you want to do. Just
once a month would be great. That would be, if that works for you, that would be perfect.
That
and maybe
works.
That'd be great. So maybe we could just and it's Monday through Friday, right?
Absolutely.
The show, or
it's Monday through Friday.
So maybe we could do 8 o'clock on a Tuesday or Thursdays is actually the easiest if they would work, and we could do it.
You got it. You
All right.
You name it, claim
So what
it.
I'll do is I'll tell my Emma on my team. Is there a producer of yours or someone I should CC, or just to do 8 o'clock and then they'll just put it on my calendar?
I just put it on your calendar. I am the one. I can,
Okay,
I can give your team member a couple of other numbers, but they can get in touch with me immediately.
Perfect. Well, this is exciting. You doing well? Otherwise, everything going well?
Look, God is good. My father is out and about, and I want to thank you. Jonathan, are you still there?
Can I let me know when a good time to call is. Call him and what number I should. Should I call you, or how do?
Absolutely. You can call me. You can call Jonathan. What I will do is I'll text you today, and
okay, great.
We'll just try and just
text me when if you text me a good time, I'll call right. As long as I'm not in votes, I'll just step out and call right then.
Oh, bless your heart. But I know he would love to hear from you. He would love to hear from you.
Well, I've been thinking of him. I've been following it. And
I got your number.
And Jonathan,
bro, I'm on the phone. I got your number. I'll call you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh, Ro, that was Jonathan. Jonathan?
Okay.
Hey, great to hear your voice, man. I'll reach out to you. I've got your number as well. And hey, man, keep up the great work. This weasel here in Dick Durbin, unbelievable. When I saw that he just
they don't want to do it. That's the blunt reality. Look, if they wanted to do it, and this was not, they could at least get Manchin at $12, right? And they could have Kamala rule this thing in and say, okay, to the progressives, let's get it up to 12, and we'll get it later to 15. The fact that they're not even willing to do that, and they're hiding behind the parliamentarians, they just don't want to raise the wage. That's what's going on. I mean, it's just, I don't want to be that blunt because I don't want to.
I don't want you to either. Because we want you to be the next senator, and then I want you to run for president. So you let Jonathan say.
I'm just but it's. I don't know, because the politics are so. It seems to be at your hearing, I mean, that people are. I don't think it's bluffing. I think people are not going to show up in 2022 if we.
30.
I promise you. That's going to be a real problem.
One of the other things, Ro. One of the things I was thinking about last night, Ro,
I'm coming
is
up in 20 seconds.
Okay, let me get the opportunity. I'd like to discuss this with you on penning an article on the Fight for 15 and the Voting Rights Act that
10.
The Voice weigh in on this Bloody Sunday. That this is the
5.
of
those two are inseparable.
Hold on.
I'd love to do it.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
It's hump day, everybody. You know, I still have Congressman Connor's got to run and vote. And it's Santita Jackson on the Santita Jackson Show. And Jonathan Jackson, so many of you love him. Anita, I'm going to let you speak with him in a hot second. Jonathan Jackson, national spokesman for Rainbow Push. And of course, one of the founding board members for Operation Push. With National Action Network and with Rainbow Push Coalition. Dwight McKee, Dr. D, brilliant sociologist, they're with us talking about the fight for 15 and really where we have to go from here. Because this is a whole lot, and I'm glad that we were able to engage with Congressman Khanna. As you now hear, he will be with us once a month, taking your questions, talking with you. Because, you know, Jonathan, it's so important. Everyone call us at 773-763-WCPT, 773-763-9278. You can also text us at that number. Thank you. Thanks to GWC Injury Lawyers. And, of course, join the Morning Stars here on the Santita Jackson and Friends page and the Santita Jackson Show YouTube page. We're streaming on Reverend Jackson's page and the Santita Jackson landing page. A whole lot. And on Twitter at Santita J and at Santita J Show. So there we go. Jonathan, we really, you know, we need a fighter. This fight for 15, I don't think that that's too much to ask. Jonathan Jackson? Oh, pull Jonathan back up, please, Paul. Dwight McKee, I don't think that this is too much to ask.
Well, I don't think that they really understand what's at stake, Santita. Again, we go back to conversations we had last year. I don't think they understand what they're looking at. The greatest threat to democracy is not Trump or tyranny. The greatest threat to democracy is poverty. And these people, when you look at their reality, you know, all you need to do is look at what kind of cars in these food lines, and it will tell you the real condition of this country is. Marie Antoinette said, you know, they have no bread, let them eat cake. And then heads roll, basically her and her husband. These people will storm the Bastille if they get too desperate. And they're not that far. They're maybe 3 months from that level of desperation. For some reason, they think that these people storming Washington last month was an aberration. That wasn't an aberration. It was really a symbol of where people are and where people can be under desperation. And so you take what you saw last week and increase that by tenfold, and you will see this country start come tumbling down. People are not going to starve. They will ride before they starve. And that's where we are.
So you say the greatest threat to this whole social order actually is poverty. Do people see it? But do people oh, wow. Do the oligarchs really understand that? You know, of course, overseas they're oligarchs. Here they're businessmen. Do they really understand that January 6th was about so much more than the vote? It was about so much that's on the table.
They think that January 6th was about Trump. And it was not. Trump was speaking to some issues that's embedded in the spirit and the souls of desperate people who see their country being taken from them and who don't see themselves having a legitimate space in place in what's going on in the country. And their attitude was, storm the Bastille, let's take the country back. These people don't understand who we are and what we're going through. Nancy Pelosi was about 2 minutes from being hung on a rope, Santita. They had ropes in their hand and handcuffs. They were not playing. They had walkie-talkies and bulletproof vests and guns. These people are on the brink of a revolution, And these are people on one level of desperation. For the real basic citizen, that pandemic, that post-pandemic desperation has not kicked in yet, because they was looking for $2,000 to give them some oxygen. They were looking for the promises of more wages so they could just stabilize themselves. The average person in this country is about one paycheck from poverty, and don't have a $400 cushion. And what this country has done is they've taken full advantage of people's desperation to create this surplus of riches, not wealth, riches, for some people on top at the expense of most of the people on the bottom. And this country would not be able to survive with that mentality. As a country, all you have to do is look at France in the 17th century, 16th century, 18th century. All you have to do is look at Rome and see what happened there. I mean, history is replete with desperate people closing down governments, assassinating the people at the top. Look at Russia with the Tsar. You will see history repeat itself. The problem here is we believe our own propaganda. We don't think that Americans are capable of armed revolution because we have bought into the propaganda. But take my word for it, desperate people will do desperate things.
Call me at 773-763-WCPT, 773-763-9278. What do you think? Are we on the verge? Jonathan? Hello?
Santita,
Yes.
Santita?
Yes, yes.
When I said last year that if we're not careful, you're going to see thousands of people with guns taking over the Capitol, trying to overthrow the process. Nobody believed me. It was incomprehensible then. Again, because we didn't know what we were looking at.
What did you see that we did not see or refuse to see?
I saw people who had come to the conclusion that their government was no longer responsive to them, whose primary goal was to dislodge them democratically and create a one world government. Believe it, whether it's true or not, this was their belief. And that they were using politics as a pretext to set up one system, quote unquote, that the Antichrist would be in charge of, and who would see Trump as the answer to and the hope therein to overcome that, to override that. That's really what QAnon is mostly about. And I could see it that the disenfranchised and the proletariat was going in a direction to say, wait a minute, we are the true patriarch. The difference between a patriarch and the terrorist is who's writing the story.
Well, let me ask you this then, because the media have tried to paint January 6th as really a push against Black people, and more broadly, a push against people of color. And that's it. End of story. That's it. That's all. And you seem to be saying that there is so much more to this. It's almost as if they're using anti-Black racism as a fig leaf to cover something else that's really going on.
Yeah. I'm saying that the media is reading this as a bunch of crazy radical people who were just out of control, that's being manipulated by Trump. And what I'm saying is that Trump, he is manipulating the people, But what he's manipulating is real beliefs and real ideology. He's only reading into the souls of these people and using it to his advantage. But these people really are there economically and politically and spiritually. That's why he won. He won because he read where the people were. Not so much as because they adjusted the way he was. He understood where the people are. And I'm saying to you is that level of desperation is going to become more intense and broader and more dangerous as that level of desperation becomes more excessive, as more people lose their houses, as more people become hungry, as more people, die from these diseases. And if the Democrats play games and don't deliver, they will be seen as just part of the problem, part of the status quo, whose main intention is to keep the people poor while they plunder the treasury. People are angry. People are desperate. And we are misreading all of that.
And I think, and misdirecting. Because they don't want to talk about all of the strains of anger out here. All of the strains of anger. These people did not go looking for the Black Caucus on January 6th. They went looking for the people in charge. We need to be very clear on what we're looking at. Let me go to Philip from Pennsylvania. Hey, Philip, it's always wonderful hearing your voice.
It's always wonderful hearing your voice too, Santita. Just like last year, as Mr. McKee was saying, and I've spoken on, if the Democrats stay with the status quo, and you have some of the senators who lifelong politicians who want to keep status quo, there's going to be a third party movement. And it's going to be a big change because people are sick and tired of being sick and tired, as has been said all last year. And unfortunately, President Biden seems like he doesn't want to fight for what we really want to fight for, and that's going to bring down the establishment that they want. So it's going to be, 22 is going to be let the chips fall where they may if they don't really take care of the working class.
Philip, is that what you're hearing in Pennsylvania?
Oh, I'm hearing, yes.
What do you hear?
If they don't take care of, oh yeah, people are tired. People are tired of working on, like I say, the working guys, tired of the low wages, tired of the forced overtime, tired of having to, if they work the temp job, then turn around. If they get hired, they have to do probation. Now they're without any type of benefits for at least 6 months, if not longer. The way, tired of being used and abused. And that's what's happening down in Alabama too with that strike. They're trying to get unionized down there.
Well, Dwight, I think Dwight, Philip is speaking to your point. Sending you much love, Philip. Mwah.
Wow.
Dwight, what say you? I mean, Philip is in Pennsylvania, and he is saying you're right. And it's mystifying to me that the mainstream media, they ignore this. They ignore Philip. They talk to who they want to talk to. The pundits, I don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, and I think it's, by deplatforming President Trump, I'm like, do you really think that you that you shut him and his supporters down? When you deplatformed him, you deplatformed his supporters. And the anger is just continues to get fed. Because people, what did Dr. King say? That riots are the language of the unheard? Dwight?
Absolutely. And the media is comfortable So they don't have a sense of what the average person is going through, and everybody's going to go through. Is this two-tiered economy where 5% of the people control 60, 70, 80, 90% of the wealth is not sustainable. It's not sustainable. And again, as desperation kicks in, and we're right on the brink, you're going to see, I think, wholesale revolt. Because these militias are very serious. They are indulging in military training for a reason. These guns are going off the shelf for a reason. You can't even buy ammunition today. And this is white people and black people are arming themselves. I think that the Democrats have to take a very serious look at what they're dealing with, because they're trying to play politics in a situation that people are on the point of real desperation. And desperate people react.
So, what do you see? What do you foresee? You foresaw this last year, the year before, and when you were saying that, these people are talking, they are organizing. We saw CPAC this weekend. Sadly, only one network, Fox, mainstream cable network, played the president's speech. Everybody else chose not to. Even Brian Williams said, well, he did a montage of what happened at CPAC. And he said, we watched it so you wouldn't have to. I said, really? Why would you do that? Number one, you should not be the arbiter of my tastes. I need you to report the news. I don't need you to make up my mind for me. But locking these people out, locking them down, is a very dangerous thing, Dwight.
And again, you have to know what you're looking at. When evangelicals bow down to a golden statue, it suggests that this is something else that we've never seen before happening. This is idolatry at another level. I mean, talking about a literal golden statue, that these people emotionally and psychologically is somewhere that these are evangelicals now, these are the Bible crowd, that these people are somewhere we've never been before. And to ignore that as if that was just, strange fruit is to misunderstand the mood and the spirit of the country.
What can be done? Because the Democrats ran on the fight for 15. This is what we're going to get. We're going to get this done. Um, they ran on, really. They had to be pushed in a progressive direction. What happens if they don't come through? Do you think voters are going to stay home? Um, do you think that they will? Well, what do you think will happen? What?
I think Shapiro is on the head. I don't think they're just going to stay home. Again, it's. I think that's a misread. I don't think. Again, I don't think this is just political option. I think we underestimate the level of desperation that people have. I think people right now are being as civil as they can be until they see their children homeless, till they see their children hungry, until they see, themselves being homeless. When you look out on around the country, this is everywhere in the country, and see these food lines, you see Mercedes and Lincolns and SUVs. These are not just the working poor. These are the general population now. This is the middle class who have been forced into poverty. Many of these jobs are not coming back. Many of these jobs are overseas. Some of these jobs have been automated. people are becoming more and more desperate. And I see that one or two more catastrophes like what happened in Houston is going to take people over the head in a lot of places.
Wow.
That's what I.
No, suicides are up.
This
I mean, murders are up. Like you said, you can't get ammunition. There's, there's got to be a sense and understanding, as you say, Dwight McKee, of the desperation out here, um, of the pain, the depth of the pain, and it's not enough.
carjackings,
Mm, Dwight, yes,
carjackings are
that's right.
drug use. This it really on the brink in many places is on the brink of a real disaster. And to answer your question, I think that the people would have unto themselves they would have gone with Bernie. Bernie is always sabotaged by the DNC because the DNC again is part of the patrician class. And so I think that when the people feel like they run out of options and they run out of redress, then that's when they take matters in their own hands. And that's really what.
Let me get one final caller before we go. Anita from North Carolina. Anita, I was trying to let you speak to Jonathan, but he had to run. Anita, what's on your mind?
Oh, well, what's on my mind is, and hi to everyone, is the complication of the people that make the lower wages. A lot of that was built on what slaves used to do. And the slaves was doing this for free, and they added in a lot of forgiveness, and they developed a lot of talent because they had a lot of patience, okay? And how do you put a wage on this for people who haven't gone through that experience? I don't believe the people that are coming over here that's going to make that $15 are going to be forgiving. I don't think they're going to be dedicated. I don't think they're going to be devoted like the slaves had to be or forced to be. And they don't have the skill, and they haven't done it in their own nation. So how are they going to do it here and get the $15 and then produce what the slaves produced? The black women were taught how to work outside of the family. A lot of women haven't been taught how to work hardly inside the family. So this $15 is really, really complicated. I think Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr. had the answer, was to make sure everyone had an education and to economically develop deprived areas so that everyone would have a fair opportunity. But the country assassinated him politically. And I lost my congressman and my development that I had waited on the south side of Chicago and in the suburbs for many, 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 many years, and eventually had to move out of the area. So if we want to sit around and not vote and not pay attention and not get involved and not understand that people coming over here for the first generation in a 3-month course of special adult education, they're not going to have the skills of the people that worked for 400 years under oppression and learned how to be blessed instead of fighting with violence.
Well, you know what, Anita? The fact is, immigrants should come to the United States, and I know you're not implying that, and I didn't infer that. That's not the problem. The problem is, the greedy. God will supply your every need, not your every greed. You're not supposed to have people who are on their way to trillionaire status while their workers are barely getting by. That is untenable. That will not work. People are chasing us to give us a shot so that COVID-19 won't be as bad. Now, we can still get it, but it won't be as bad. But the shot is free, but the treatment for COVID-19 is not. We still don't have a national health plan. So if you get COVID-19, you still got to pay for it. You still are on the hook for your rent or your mortgage. You still are not making enough money on your job. And this impacts white people far more disproportionately more than it does black people. This is an American dilemma. Thank you, Theodore Dreiser. This is an American problem. And Dwight, in this final minute, we're going to have to deal with this and stop misdirecting and using race and racism as a fig leaf. Yes, racism is at the core, but guess what?
1 minute.
Inequity and inequality is at the core of this, Dwight. You got 30 seconds.
Well, Two things. One is the fence is still around the Capitol 2 months later. They can't take the, they're afraid to take the fence down because they don't know when that crowd may come back and storm the Capitol. And so, and yesterday in the hearing, the head of the FBI said to Congress is that these militias are the greatest threat to our democracy. But what makes them a threat is because they believe that these people are manipulating this country and its economy to their disadvantage and for their advantage. It's the young people say you better recognize. We forget because of the pandemic how many people and how many cities were in the streets and up in flames.
That's right.
Last year, we don't
Time.
in every major city last year there were marches and riots and fights, and this was over police violence. You add to that fuel the threat, the poverty and despair and hopelessness, and this is going to be a whole, as James Brown said, this will be a whole nother thing.
Stay right here with me, everybody, on Facebook Live for just a few more minutes. Thank you so much for being with me today. Dwight, we're still on Facebook Live. Thank you, Paul. Wow. Do you have any final thoughts? I mean, because I really think that this is you hear the desperation. Dwight McKee?
Oh, I thought you were talking to Paul.
No, I was talking to you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, those are my final thoughts. Is I'm just hoping that we have enough sense to read between the lines and to do those things that Dr. King and Reverend Jackson and Robert Kennedy really challenged us to do, is to be a real democracy and to bring people not just into the political process, but the economic process. Because people vote in politics, but they live in the economy.
What did you just say? They vote. You got it. You got it. I mean, and that's real. That's it. That's all. That's it. That's all. And I hope that we will be. I hope that we are very, very clear on the desperation out here. The desperation. I told you, Claudette Evans, who you've known all of her life, and as you've known me all of mine. We went out to lunch last week, and she said, "Now I need you to come downstairs um, when I pick you up because I don't sit in the car because carjackings are off the charts." Jonathan said, "Hey, don't take that Dan Ryan because they're using cars and people as target practice. People getting shot." I mean, there is people feel that if they've been thrown away, your life can be thrown away too. I'm not saying it's right, but you need to be clear on what's happening. You need to be clear that January 6th was not just about the browning of America. Oh no. That's yet another diversion. Just like they browned up slavery, which white folks were in when they got here too. Yet another diversion. Yet another diversion. They racialized inequality and made white people indentured servants, let them stay there so you could work your way out of slavery. And black people, you can never work your way out of it. So we'll have a permanent underclass. So we can lock in inequality and the oligarchs can continue to make the money while you try to scrape by and make your way.
And if you look at the people who were in that line who was in the riots, they were policemen, they were ex-military guys, they were business owners. They were the face of America.
Oh yeah.
This wasn't just renegade maniacs. This was the face of America who saw themselves as legitimate patriots. And that's why I say the difference between the patriot and the terrorist is who's writing the script. George Custer was a patriot when the cavalry wrote the book, but when the natives wrote the book, he was a terrorist. He put on who write the book, and these people see themselves not as terrorists, but as patriots, and they see the government as the enemy, and the government as those who are involved in tyranny, and they in their own mind see themselves overcoming real tyranny. And in some ways, when you look at the numbers, they got a point. These people are not crazy. Some may be misguided, but they are looking at something, they are seeing something, they are experiencing something that many of us right now, it's maybe a little foreign to, but at the rate we're going, more of us are going to get there than not and begin to, see that revelation. Trump is in the wings getting organized. And, like I said last year, that what you're going to see is you're going to see two White Houses, one in Washington and one in Florida.
You said that.
And he's not going anywhere. And he's going to become the William Jennings Bryan of his generation. Because what he's going to begin to argue is that these people are trying to take the country you love for themselves. And if we don't come together, we're going to lose this. And then there are going to be millions and millions and millions of people who buy into that.
Wow.
I hope the Democrats wake up.
I hope so too. I'm just wondering if they're going to. I think they are playing with fire. They are playing with fire because if you can't stop, you need to be careful stopping at a stoplight here in Chicago now. Carjackings are off the charts. And you try to get
And they're all over the city.
They're all in
And
every
they're all
part
over
of the
the
city.
city center.
In every part of the city. The only reason they're not taking shots, at least from above on Lakeshore Drive, is because you don't have the overpasses. It's just, an expressway on the lake. But people are desperate. And they're angry.
And the mayor took the money that was set up for COVID relief and gave it to the police department. And to balance the budget, she's implemented. This is just Chicago alone now. She's implemented. If you're going 6 miles over the speed limit, you have to pay $35 with these speed cameras, and $100 if you go 10 miles over the speed limit to balance the budget off the poor. People can only take but so much. And she's a liberal, and that's her mindset, is to balance the budget off the poor. People can only take but so much.
Well, everybody, you just heard it. So you tell me what you think, and we will pick up this conversation tomorrow because I think that that's real. Because we are now watching the testimony before Congress of the FBI and all these intelligence agencies that said they didn't know what was happening what was going to happen on January 6th. Even though one of the leader of one of the leaders of the Oath Keepers still has top secret security clearance today, and he's a former section chief of the FBI. He's a lieutenant commander from the Navy. Hey, I just I don't understand how this is going to work out, and I'm the problem. What, Dwight? You have anything else to say before you go?
No. Assalamu alaikum.
Oh gosh. Oh, whew. Okay. Well, I want to thank you for being with us today. I thought Jonathan was going to join us, but he had to run. But please, you had more than enough to say, and we heard you and love you so much. And thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. It's a lot. There's a lot. There's a lot. There's a lot. And so I am off to see my dad shortly. So let me get on out of here. And everybody, as I shared with you, thinking of Vernon Jordan today. The great Vernon Jordan made his exit. Wow. Made his exit, 85 years of age. What a life. What a life, everybody. What a life. So All right, Dwight McKee, thank you so much. Started off talking with uh, Texas Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis, finding out what's going on in Texas, and they're about to reopen it. I just don't, Dwight. There's just so much going on. I mean, every day. And now Will Smith says he might step into politics one day. Why not? Why not? Oh.
And Stevie Wonder's talking about moving to Ghana. It tells you what the country is.
What does that? What does that tell you with him moving to Ghana?
It tell you where he sees the country going.
What do you think he sees? He said he does not want his grandchildren to have to deal with with the racism, and I guess he must feel something. He feels something now. He feels something.
Yeah, he does. You know, he got a sixth sense.
He does now. He does
You know,
that.
he always does this thing.
Now look,
So if he's feeling something, a vibration in the universe,
he
it
does.
makes him want to pack his get out of here.
Make him want to pack his
It
bags.
tells you that
He's out of here. He said,
Mhm.
"I'm out." I said to Ghana, like wait a minute, like Du Bois. Wait. That's the last guy who got out of here like this. Remember, that's where Du Bois died.
Mhm.
We went to see his gravesite when I was a little girl in Ghana. Yeah, he's out.
Mhm.
You just said a whole lot. You just said a whole lot. Well, just very quickly, because we're still on Facebook Live. What do you make of the lifting of the um, of the restrictions in Texas and Mississippi?
Again, you're playing with people's lives. You know, I think that people are beginning to peep through the fact that you put the whole state on privatize the whole power industry in the state to be able to make more money. And now people look at these bills for $10,000, $12,000 for a week's worth of electricity. People's houses are underwater still.
Literally.
Literally don't have a way to pay for it. You know, don't have a way to redeem their houses. We haven't gotten to the tornado season yet, in the hurricane season. That's on the way, and so it's going to be one other disaster after another. I think that the country's attitude has to be in a more disaster management mode. I think we can't operate with business as usual, as if all this is going to
just go away.
To pass it by. It's going away. Is that I remember one show we did the other last month. There was a change of the season, change of the year show, and people kept saying, "Well, if we can just get out of 220, if we can just get out this year, if we can just get to the new year,
you kept saying
things will be all right."
you
And I was saying, the Bible says that this is just the beginning of sorrow. This is going to get worse before it gets better. And if we believe that the things don't change because the season change, again, we misread the tea leaves. The country needs to change its attitude and understand it. It almost has to have a Marshall Plan, World War II, British Churchill mentality. Is that, you know, we need to change our mindset and begin to pass laws and set ourselves up for in a survival mode to be able to, you know, go and pull the least of these up and set the country up in a survival mode until things get better at the bottom. The people at the top are going to be okay, but we need to set up a things to get better at the bottom. If not, we're going to lose this country.
Well, there's not a real understanding. Yes, Anita. Oh, I didn't realize you were still there. Yes, Anita.
Well, I hear what you all are saying, but what's making people crack up, mentally crack up, maybe not wearing masks is I don't want to live. I don't know how to solve problems. We have to look at how people are mentally coping with this America. Another thing is people don't know, not only do black people not know our history, but white people don't know the amount of dedication that the slaves had to continuously for over many, a couple of centuries to build this country. And maybe that's why they're snapping. Maybe they don't understand. These people actually loved you enough not to be violent and to hope that a better outcome would come with that. And Martin Luther King kind of topped it all off. And Elijah Muhammad said, yeah, well, we're not going through it again. And Martin Luther King said, well, we can handle it if we can do it a different way this time. But the white people need to know the history, too, so that they don't crack up and don't be so violent. Maybe their parents didn't love them as much as the slaves did.
Well, I don't know.
So they don't
You know what?
understand love.
But you know what I think? They have been lied to. They have been told that you're 3/5, I'm 7/5 human. They've been told that they are special. They have been told that this that there is unfettered opportunity here for them, and they're beginning to see that that's not true. They're beginning to see that that's not true. That there is a 1%. There always has been. It was racialized for so long, and it still is. But they're beginning to see, no, you too cannot make it. No, your child can't go to college because you want that raise. No, you're not getting it. There's a whole lot going on here. A lot of a
But,
lot of a lot of the falsehoods are being exposed as we speak. As we speak. But
Santita,
your final thought?
they're using drugs to escape.
Yeah, but so everybody's doing that. Everybody's doing that. I mean,
But
honestly.
that's horrible.
Yeah, I mean,
It's so
I'm not
horrible.
saying it's right, but I'm saying that's not a white or black thing. Now, white folks use opioids, black folks use crack, right? Look, people when they try to numb themselves when they're in a lot of pain. That's what they're doing. And these folks are doing that. And they could have dealt with drug addiction a long time ago, but because it was supposed to just be a black problem, okay, they didn't. So now guess what? Now it's just everybody's problem. It always has been. So I mean, Anita, we all got problems. My father often says that we came over here on different boats, but came over here on different ships, but we're in the same boat now. Now all Texans do not have can't drink the water. Not all, but so many. Black, white, brown, yellow, and red. They can't. You heard Commissioner Ellis say, "Look, when I take a shower, I keep my mouth closed." And I'm like, man, when you take a shower, you better be very careful because water goes through the skin. They got a mess. On top of all of this, they're going to open things up with a virus that we can't put our arms around. We can't. And with a vaccine that does not inoculate you from getting the virus, it just helps you not to get it. It's not as bad.
And for the purposes of a few people being able to make a lot of money. That just didn't have to happen. It was designed to happen because a few people wanted to make a lot of money and didn't want to be regulated by the United States government. And so they didn't have to happen. It's when people look at, as they figure out that you could forgive all the debt in Wall Street, $1 trillion, but you can't forgive my student debt, is the inconsistencies are a bit much for people to bear.
Dwight,
They don't understand the discrepancy.
to your point, the bankers' bailout of 2007, 2008, which went back further than that, was more than $20 trillion. Chris Dodd and Barney Frank on the Senate and House sides did an audit of all of the money that the government gave to Wall Street. It was more than $20 trillion with a T. And you can't figure out $50,000. You can't figure out just forgiving whatever you say about Muammar Gaddafi. You went from preschool through graduate school on the state. And wherever you wanted to go to college in the world or graduate school in the world, the state paid for it because they felt that it was in the interest of the state to have an educated populace. You got $50,000 when you got married. There was a dividend given to every Libyan citizen. That $1,000 or $2,000 a month, so you would have a floor beneath which people would not fall. He said, "We've got the richest oil in the world. You need to benefit from it."
People in the United States went to Cuba to go to medical school because it was free, and they couldn't afford to go here.
And all they asked was that when you come back to the United States, serve the poor. That's all. That's all. That's all I'm asking you to do. And I have my own Cuban story. You know, my grandma Gertrude, God may she rest in peace. You remember Elian Gonzalez, the young little boy who was, his mother came over here and she brought him, and she was really, bless her heart, she was in love and she was following a gentleman here. I'm not faulting her. May she rest in peace. But that's why she brought her son with her. And, the Cubans in Florida tried to make it about, liberty and justice and all that, but that's not what it was. Are you still there, Dwight? Hello? I think I've been cut off. Okay, well, I'm gonna let you all go. But I tell you this, my grandmother said that, hey, this was little when she was a migrant worker in Cuba. She said we were little more than slaves then. So think about that. Love you, everybody. I will see you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show. God bless you.